On January 30th, 1991, high above the skies east of Baghdad, two Iraqi fighter pilots strapped into their aging MiG-25 Foxbats and prepared for a mission that seemed almost suicidal. The Iraqi Air Force had been shattered by weeks of relentless coalition bombing. Most aircraft had already been destroyed on the ground, fled to neighboring Iran, or been shot down. Against overwhelming odds, these two pilots found themselves hurtling into combat against the most advanced fighter jet of the era, the American F-15 Eagle. What happened next shocked everyone. Saddam's military ambition. By the summer of 1990, Saddam Hussein commanded the fourth largest military in the world. His regime was brutal and absolute, ruling Iraq with fear, violence, and an iron grip. Yet Saddam's ambitions stretched beyond his country's borders. On August 2nd, 1990, he ordered his tanks across the border into Kuwait, a small Gulf nation with immense oil wealth. Kuwait's defenses crumbled in days, and the world reacted with outrage. Diplomacy failed, and a massive coalition of 28 nations, stretching across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Arab League, assembled to confront Saddam. Operation Desert Storm, the largest aerial assault since World War II, was about to begin. The Coalition Air Campaign. On January 17, 1991, the coalition unleashed its full force. Hundreds of aircraft filled the night sky, striking Iraq's air defenses, communication hubs, and radar stations. Within hours, the Iraqi Air Force was plunged into chaos. Ground control networks were shattered, leaving pilots blind and isolated in the sky. Coalition aircraft swept the skies with overwhelming superiority. Iraqi jets were picked off, hangars were obliterated, and planes were destroyed before they could even take off. Dozens of brave Iraqi pilots still tried to fight back, but most never returned. Saddam realized his once proud Air Force was doomed. In desperation, he gave a shocking order. Surviving jets were to flee across the border into Iran, ironically Iraq's bitter rival, where coalition aircraft could not pursue them. The Great Escape. On January 26th, Iraqi jets began slipping out of the country. Flying low over the desert to evade radar, they made a dash for the Iranian border. Those closest managed the escape in a single sprint, with 23 jets breaking through in one day. Others, stationed deeper inside Iraq, had to attempt dangerous refueling maneuvers near Baghdad while avoiding coalition patrols. By January 28th, 82 Iraqi aircraft had successfully crossed into Iran. Coalition commanders were stunned. Were the pilots defecting, or had Saddam struck a secret deal with Tehran? No one knew for sure, but what was clear was that dozens of fighters were slipping away under their noses. The coalition responded by creating an aerial blockade. Around the clock, F-15 patrols formed a wall along the Iranian border, rotating between high-speed intercepts and mid-air refueling. If any more Iraqi jets tried to escape, they would have to fight their way through the Eagles. The MiG-25, Iraq's last hope. By this point, most of Iraq's advanced MiG-29 Fulcrums had already failed in combat, losing every engagement against coalition aircraft. Saddam was furious. His prize fighters had not delivered, but one aircraft had surprised everyone: the MiG-25 Foxbat, a relic of the 1960s. The Foxbat was designed in the Soviet Union to counter the USSR-71 Blackbird. It was big, fast, and powerful, but clumsy in a dogfight. Its radar was primitive and it couldn't track targets flying below the horizon. Yet, in the first days of Desert Storm, MiG-25s had pulled off stunning feats. One had shot down an American FA-18. Another had disrupted electronic jamming operations, exposing an F-15 to a fatal surface-to-air missile. In another clash, two Foxbats had escaped unscathed after dodging 10 missiles fired by Eagles. What the Foxbat lacked in finesse, it made up for with raw speed, capable of Mach 2.8 and its R-40 missiles, massive weapons that could hit targets from 80 kilometers away. Saddam saw in the Foxbat his last chance to punch through the coalition blockade. The ambush plan. Iraqi commanders devised a bold strategy. Knowing the Eagles rotated to refuel, they planned to ambush a patrol during its most vulnerable moment. Two MiG-25s would launch from different bases, converge from opposite directions, and execute a pincer attack. The hope was that the Eagles would focus on one Foxbat, leaving the other free to strike. For days, the MiG pilots waited for the right opportunity. Finally, on January 30th, Iraqi radar detected targets northeast of Baghdad. Two Foxbats scrambled. Captain Mahmoud Awad from one base, Captain Mohammed as-Samurai from another. They climbed to 42,000 feet and streaked east of the capital, moving into position, but Iraqi ground control had misread the radar. There were no coalition jets. It was a false alarm. Then came a new order. Two F-15s had been detected farther south. The MiGs were told to intercept, clash over the desert. The duel over the desert unfolded with stunning speed as Captains Tom Dietz and Bob Heheman in their F-15s closed head-on with the two Iraqi Foxbats, both sides racing toward each other at Mach 2. Guided by an E-3 Sentry, the Americans braced for the intercept, but almost immediately things began to unravel. Heheman fired the first AM-7 Sparrow, only to watch it fail to ignite. A second missile launched, but by then Captain Az Samurai had already fired his massive R-40, which detonated close enough to cripple Heheman's left engine and force him into evasive maneuvers. Meanwhile, Dietz faced his own nightmare. 3 separate Sparrows failed in succession, 2 refusing to ignite and 1 never leaving its rail. Awad seized the chance to fire back with an R-40 of his own, pushing Dietz into defensive maneuvers as well. What followed was a chaotic exchange of malfunctions, near misses, and frantic evasions. Against all odds, the Foxbats had not only survived a clash with the most advanced fighters in the world, but had even managed to damage one of them in the process. Disengagement. Sensing that the fight was slipping out of control, Captain Dietz ordered his flight to disengage and head east, while the MiG-25s running low on fuel broke off and returned west to their bases. Both Iraqi pilots landed safely, having survived a direct clash with the most feared fighter of the era. The outcome was startling. 2 Foxbats had gone head-to-head with F-15 Eagles and emerged intact, with 1 American jet even sustaining damage in the process. Baghdad wasted no time claiming victory, proudly declaring that an Eagle had been shot down, though Washington dismissed the claim and insisted no losses had occurred. Officially, the encounter was written off as inconclusive, a draw, but for the Iraqis it was celebrated as a rare triumph in a war otherwise defined by overwhelming coalition dominance. Aftermath. Despite the fleeting success of the MiG-25s, the engagement proved to be nothing more than a final gasp for Saddam's crumbling military. Within weeks, coalition forces liberated Kuwait and Iraq was forced into surrender, bringing an end to the Gulf War. The Iraqi jets that had escaped to Iran never returned, as they were seized by the Iranians and absorbed into their own fleet, signaling the permanent decline of Iraq's once formidable air force. From that point on, coalition air dominance went unchallenged, yet the encounter on January 30th, 1991 still stands as a remarkable footnote in aviation history, a moment when outdated Soviet-era fighters flown by desperate but skillful Iraqi pilots managed to confront America's most advanced warplanes and survive against all odds. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Desert Storm's most unexpected air battles, make sure to hit that like and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories of aviation, history, and strategy. Got thoughts on the Foxbat versus Eagle Showdown? Drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.